Welcome to today's video, where we'll explore the wildest courtroom escapes of all time. From quick-thinking, crafty criminals to heart-pounding chases, these scenes are nothing short of action movies. But this is real, and it happened right in the courtroom. You won't believe the methods these criminals use to evade punishment. Stay tuned to witness bold, dangerous, and sometimes unbelievable escapes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any exciting videos. Gerald Hyde, a 24-year-old man convicted of drug possession at the Benton County Justice Center in Washington, made a bold escape attempt. While being escorted to his cell along with other inmates, Hyde found an opportunity to slip away when a guard turned his back. He quickly made his way into the courtroom, removed his prison shirt to hide his handcuffs, discarded his prison shoes, and sprinted outside. However, Hyde's freedom was short-lived. After 2 hours on the run, he was recaptured and charged with second-degree escape, adding another 2 years and 2 months to his sentence. It was an audacious attempt, but in the end, Hyde couldn't evade justice. Rayon Woodford, 29, who had been sentenced to probation for drug and weapon-related offenses, made a desperate escape attempt while at the Jefferson County Courthouse. When the judge decided to revoke his probation and sentenced him to 5 years in prison, Woodford attempted to flee the courtroom. A flash of movement occurred as he bolted out of the room, only to be captured shortly after. His girlfriend was pushed during the scuffle, and her hair was pulled by a deputy sheriff. However, she faced no charges, while Woodford was hit with an additional charge of second-degree escape on top of his 5-year sentence. Nicholas Garrison, 34, had just been sentenced for drug possession at the Greenfield, Ohio courthouse. As he was about to be taken to prison, he seized the opportunity when one of the officers turned away. He rushed out of the courtroom and sprinted toward the stairs. A sheriff attempted to leap to apprehend him, but Garrison managed to evade capture and escaped for a time. After 4 days on the run, he was finally caught at a motel and sentenced to an additional 6 years in prison. During the escape attempt, a deputy sheriff was severely injured, breaking 4 ribs and suffering a concussion in the process. Garrison's bold escape only added more time to his sentence, and the incident highlighted the risks and challenges faced by law enforcement during such high-stakes situations. Cyrus Matthews, 19, was sentenced to 60 days in jail for reckless driving at the Wadsworth, Ohio City Court. After hearing the verdict, Matthews suddenly walked out of the courtroom and, with his girlfriend, ran to the parking lot to escape. Police immediately gave chase, leading to a high-speed pursuit. Matthews was eventually apprehended after causing a serious car accident that left a family with minor injuries. During the chase, Matthews drove at speeds of 90 km/h. While fleeing, he collided with an SUV carrying a family, causing significant damage to the vehicle and knocking over a gas station sign. Fortunately, the family in the SUV only suffered minor injuries. Matthews was arrested and faced additional charges for the accident and fleeing from the courthouse, turning the situation into a tragic incident for all involved. Joel Delgado, a prisoner in a wheelchair for theft and weapon charges, devised a bold escape plan at the Little Rock, Arkansas courthouse. When brought to court, Delgado pretended to be in pain, claiming he couldn't move. Seizing the opportunity when an officer bent down to pick up a shoe, Delgado suddenly stood up and ran. The police chased him but were unable to catch him. However, just a few hours later, Delgado was recaptured and charged with escape. His act of feigning illness allowed him to evade capture for a brief time before being returned to prison. Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard, 2 defendants in a case of driving with a suspended license, shocked everyone by attempting to escape from the courtroom. Despite being handcuffed and wearing prison uniforms, they made a bold decision to flee. Judge R.W. Buzzard, without hesitation, immediately rushed to pursue the two. However, their sudden actions created a tense and unexpected situation, catching everyone in the courtroom off guard. As the judge handed down the sentence, Jacobson and Howard bolted from the courtroom. Jacobson ran a short distance before stopping and questioning what he was doing. After pausing, he surrendered. Both were recaptured and faced longer sentences, replacing the initial 30-day sentence with additional charges and extended prison time. Their reckless escape attempt added to their legal troubles, leading to much harsher consequences. Derek Wright, who was facing charges for speeding, attempted to escape while at the Louisville, Kentucky courthouse. Despite the relatively relaxed atmosphere in the courtroom, Wright decided to flee while the judge was reviewing his paperwork. He thought his arrest warrant might no longer be valid, but when the truth was revealed, he was quickly apprehended by the police. As he resisted, a deputy had to use a taser to subdue him. Wright was hit with additional charges, including third-degree assault and resisting arrest, after trying to escape and causing a disturbance in the courtroom. Mario and Jose Guzman attended a pre-trial hearing at the Jefferson County Court in Louisville, Kentucky. The two brothers faced serious charges and unexpectedly attempted to escape, creating a highly tense situation. Mario Guzman was facing a range of severe charges, including drug possession and trafficking. During his hearing, the prosecution proposed increasing Mario's bail to $155,000 after new theft charges were added. The defense argued that the theft charges were too vague, as there was no clear victim. Ultimately, the judge agreed with the prosecutor and raised the bail by an additional $5,000. Mario, unable to accept the decision, made a bold move as he was being taken into custody. He stood up and attempted to flee. The police struggled to control him, and when one of the officers deployed a taser, the situation escalated into chaos. In the midst of this, Mario's wife was devastated and was handcuffed. Mario was later hit with new charges, including attempted assault and property damage, with his bail set at $77,500. Leonid Greer, an 18-year-old from Russia, was on trial for the murder of his sister after killing her. During the investigation, police discovered occult symbols drawn in blood on her body. Greer admitted to killing his sister to escape suspicion and self-blame. Throughout the trial, Greer showed no remorse and even smiled during questioning. Police had found drugs in his apartment, which could have been linked to the murder. During the trial, Greer was placed in a glass cage to prevent his escape. However, Greer had other plans. Unable to escape through the cage, he attempted to crawl through the roof of the cage and tried to escape through the false ceiling of the courtroom. Officers tried to restrain him, but were unsuccessful. After more officers joined in and threatened to use a taser, Greer eventually surrendered and was returned to his cell. Once the dust settled, he was instructed to adjust his attire and continued to be under strict supervision. Daniel Nicholson, 35, was facing weapons charges at a court in Australia and appeared before the judge to hear a decision regarding his bail before trial. When the judge decided to revoke his bail and ordered him to be taken into custody, Nicholson objected and expressed skepticism. However, the judge ignored his objections and instructed him to sit down. Before anything could unfold, Nicholson suddenly launched himself through the glass dock, overpowering two officers and crashing into the barrier, creating chaos in the courtroom. Ultimately, the officers regained control and apprehended Nicholson. The incident resulted in one officer suffering a broken leg and another sustaining a jaw injury. Nicholson was subsequently hit with additional charges for escaping and causing harm to an emergency worker. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 21 months in prison. While his actions could be attributed to drug use, the incident serves as a reminder of the consequences when prisoners attempt to escape. Eddie Sixth Alabos, 28, was facing second-degree murder charges after allegedly stabbing a man to death. When escorted into the courtroom, his shackles were removed, as per Oregon law, to avoid creating prejudice before the jury. However, as soon as his shackles were taken off, Alabos suddenly jumped from his seat and ran toward the door. Officers scrambled to pursue him as he sprinted down the hallway and down the stairs. He managed to escape through the lobby and fled the courthouse. A 2-hour manhunt ensued before police received a report about someone attempting to break into an adjacent apartment. When officers arrived, they found Alabos hiding under a blanket in the closet. He was arrested and faced additional charges of first- and second-degree burglary. This incident highlights the serious consequences of exploiting the law and the reckless nature of criminals attempting to escape justice. Israel Pointer, 19, was facing charges of robbery and weapon use at the Oklahoma County Courthouse. After learning that his bail was revoked, Pointer realized he would be sent to jail. In a moment of desperation, he fled, charging through the courtroom door, escaping the grasp of one deputy sheriff and nearly shooting another deputy. Although he continued to run, Pointer encountered a group of attorneys, including attorney David Prater. Without hesitation, Prater grabbed Pointer and refused to let go. Other lawyers intervened and helped restrain Pointer. This marked the 4th time that lawyer Prater had been involved in apprehending a defendant attempting to escape at this courthouse. Ultimately, Pointer was recaptured and charged with resisting arrest. The decisive intervention of the attorneys prevented Pointer from escaping, highlighting how, in an instant, a person can lose their opportunity for freedom. The story of the young Israel Pointer is truly surprising because of his reckless and dangerous actions. Though still young and impulsive, he acted with great haste. This also serves as a lesson for everyone who walks down the wrong path and faces the consequences of the law. What are your thoughts on this story? Let us know in the comments. If you have a different perspective or would like to share your thoughts, don't hesitate to tell us. If you want to know more about any other story, feel free to ask. Gregory Wright, 22, faced armed robbery charges in Detroit, Michigan, after he robbed a man, stole the victim's car, and then collided with a police patrol car, shooting an officer in the arm. He was apprehended and faced charges for robbery and weapon use. During his pretrial hearing, Wright made an unexpected move. As he was being escorted, he managed to escape and performed an impressive leap over a barricade. However, in a moment of carelessness, he fell right into the hands of officers, and it took 7 officers to subdue him. Eventually, Wright's bond was revoked, and he was ordered to remain in jail. Despite his strength and determination to escape, it couldn't save him from his fate, and he was ultimately sentenced to life in prison. At the Franklin County Court in Columbus, Ohio, a group of female prisoners was being escorted to jail after being sentenced. In one unexpected moment, one of them, while being led out of the courtroom, made a surprising move that put all court staff in a dangerous situation. The incident prompted the police to quickly deploy measures to regain control. Despite the efforts of law enforcement, the escape attempt resulted in not only additional charges, but also an increase in tension within the courtroom, further complicating the situation for everyone involved. Moy, 39, charged with grand theft, and Morrissey, 40, charged with driving under the influence, had no intention of going to prison. Handcuffed together, they embarked on a bold escape attempt. While being transported to the prison bus, they managed to slide underneath the vehicle without being noticed. The plan seemed to be going smoothly until the bus reached a red light in the street. Morrissey, after unlocking the handcuffs, quickly fled the scene. A private investigator passing by spotted her and chased her down, apprehending her shortly after. Meanwhile, Moy found refuge in the bushes along the highway. However, her escape attempt failed when she broke her back and had to be hospitalized. Once everything settled, both women were charged with escape and faced more serious charges. Joey Watts, on trial at the Grant County Court in Arkansas for charges including attempted murder and related offenses, made a bold and calm move during the trial. While the jury was deliberating, Watts stood up and casually walked out of the courtroom without encountering any resistance. He descended the stairs, spoke to his family, and quickly made his way out the front door. At this point, Watts began running to seize his freedom. However, his liberty was short-lived. After disappearing for a brief period, he was recaptured the following day. Deputy Sheriff Pete Roberts confirmed that Watts had been released on bond and was free to move about the courthouse, which allowed him to take advantage of the opportunity to escape when no court officials were paying attention. That day, due to a staffing shortage, the court was unable to hire additional personnel needed to prevent such actions. While the court was in the process of improving security, they had not implemented the changes in time. Remarkably, Watts was assisted in his escape by two individuals, including his brother, who signaled another person in the room. The three of them left the courthouse quietly. After running away, Watts was apprehended the next day. Ultimately, Watts was sentenced to 36 years in prison, 10 years for assault, and 26 years for weapon possession, even though his escape appeared effortless and calm. Dwayne Chaney, 25, was on trial for murder in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, accused of fatally shooting Michael Prescott following an altercation over a woman in 2015. Throughout the trial, Chaney was allowed to move freely within the courthouse with a GPS ankle monitor attached. However, during a break, Chaney seized the opportunity to escape. After chatting with his girlfriend, Zuri London, Chaney met his father, Frank Kiles. The two then left the hallway and quickly exited the building. London, realizing what was happening, ran after them and made a phone call but couldn't stop Chaney's escape plan. A white truck was waiting outside the courthouse, and Chaney and his father quickly got in, driven by Chaney's mother, Flor Genia. After removing the GPS monitor and discarding it from the vehicle, Chaney believed he had successfully evaded capture. However, 4 days later, he was apprehended by federal police while hiding in a nearby dumpster. Ultimately, Chaney was sentenced to life in prison without parole for murder and additional charges related to his escape. Callum Fetter, 21, was at Bradford Youth Court in the UK to support his 17-year-old friend, who had just been sentenced to 21 weeks in prison for stealing a mobile phone. However, Fetter wasn't just standing by the courtroom observing. He had his own plan. Fetter studied how the automatic doors in the court worked and figured out how to open them by pressing a button. When the door opened, Fetter helped his friend escape. His intervention led to charges against him, and he faced serious consequences for aiding in the escape. Fetter not only facilitated his friend's escape, but also encouraged him as he ran out of the courtroom. After quickly making his way through the hallway, the teen slipped past a security checkpoint while 4 officers chased after him. Fetter followed closely behind without raising suspicion. Once his friend vanished, Fetter casually emerged from behind and walked past the officers without being detected. However, the escape didn't last long, and 2 days later, the teen thief was apprehended and sentenced to an additional 6 months in prison for the escape. Fetter was sentenced to 3 months in prison for assisting in the escape. At the Meigs County Courthouse in Deatra, Tennessee, Rashad Hawkins, 33, had just been sentenced for failing to pay child support. However, Hawkins wasn't prepared to go to jail. Before being taken into custody, he jumped out of the courtroom from the second floor and fell into the lobby. Despite falling from a height of 10 feet, Hawkins got up as if nothing had happened and ran toward the exit. For a while, court staff and officers were left bewildered, unsure of what had just occurred. Eventually, Hawkins was captured in Harrod, Kentucky, after neighbors reported a suspicious man breaking into their house. Although he continued to flee and fought with officers to avoid capture, Hawkins was eventually apprehended and faced additional charges of criminal trespassing and resisting arrest. Corey Rohn, a 39-year-old man with a criminal record, was facing charges of possession when he made a daring escape attempt by jumping from the second floor of the courtroom. During this, a deputy sheriff waiting at the exit was knocked down and struck while Rand fled. A chase ensued as Rand made his way out of the courthouse, causing chaos and confusion in the courthouse area. Rand had been ordered into custody by the judge at the Mogi, Oklahoma court. But he had other plans. After noticing the lack of security, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He walked out of the courtroom, grabbed a handgun, and climbed the stairs, despite 3 court officers chasing him. As Rand headed toward the exit, a deputy sheriff tried to stop him but was unsuccessful. Rand dragged the officer along, broke through a metal detector, and escaped in a car. After a few days, Rand turned himself in to the police and was charged with escape, assault, and battery. The sheriff was injured in the head and had to be hospitalized, but fortunately made a full recovery. Cody Kuhn, 30, was on his way to the Boulder County Jail Complex in Colorado to address the charges against him when he suddenly realized he was about to be arrested. In a swift move, Cody bolted and ran through the parking lot, disappearing into the nearby woods. Although several officers pursued him, he managed to evade capture. A manhunt ensued, and a month later, Cody was apprehended in Weld County. While he was not charged with additional crimes related to the escape, Cody ultimately pled guilty and was sentenced to 4 years of probation and 18 months of suspended prison time. Well, we've just explored some of the wildest courtroom escapes of all time. These daring, dangerous, and sometimes audacious escapes. What do you think about the ways these criminals used to outsmart and evade punishment? Were they too clever, or just situations beyond imagination? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to catch more exciting videos. See you in the next thrilling story, and remember, it's not always easy to escape justice.